هل باتت صناعة السينما جزءا من الحرب الناعمة والمفتوحة ضد محور المقاومة؟ وهل تسهم في تغيير الوقائع ونشر العقائد المختلفة؟ الهوليووديزم من الداخل. معكم زينب الصفار، تابعونا. لعل مصادفة ولادته مع ليلة ميلاد السيد المسيح عليه السلام لم تكن عبثا، إذ إنه بعد 55 عاما ظل الشخص نفسه الذي تولى إخراج الفيلم الإيراني المسايا أو المسيح بنسخته الإيرانية ومنظوره الإسلامي. هو صانع الأفلام الإيراني نادر طالب زاده، الحائز شهادة ماجستير في صناعة الأفلام من مدرسة كولومبيا المتخصصة في صناعة الأفلام في مدينة نيويورك، وماجستير في الإعلام. بهدف صناعة فيلم المسيح انطلق طالب زاده في رحلة بحث استمرت أكثر من 10 سنوات، حيث مزج بين الرواية الإنجيلية والقرآنية عن النبي عيسى المسيح عليه السلام، وذلك بحسب طالب زاده لتوحيد رسالة المسيح السماوية وتعاليمه. المخرج الإيراني طالب زاده كان شاهدا على فظائع الحرب العراقية الإيرانية لمدة 8 سنوات، حيث أخرج وكتب وأنتج العديد من الوثائقيات عن تلك الحقبة التي حصدت جوائز عدة. طالب زاده كيف يصف رحلة بحثه في إنتاج وكتابة وإخراج قصة المسيح عليه السلام بعيون إسلامية، وماذا عن النصيحة التي قدمها إليه أمين عام حزب الله السيد حسن نصر الله بخصوص الفيلم، وماذا عن الجدل الذي أثاره هذا الإنتاج الإيراني، وكيف ينظر طالب زاده إلى صناعة الأفلام في الجمهورية الإسلامية في إيران اليوم، وإلى أي مدى تعبر عن التناقضات في المجتمع الإيراني. Iranian filmmaker and commentator Dr. Nadir Talib Zada, welcome to The Inside. Well, sir, according to observers, quote, in the absence of a free press, cinema came to provide a kind of social critique. We're not going to discuss now free press, but to what extent is the movie making and the film industry in Iran came as an embodiment of the criticism of the Iranian society, and to what extent does it reflect, contradictions inside the Iranian society?
Well, this is a pretty heavy question. There's always debate as to up to what level is in Iranian cinema free to express whatever is in the Iranian society. There's always controversy about that, and push and pull in terms of what the government's part of cinema, معاونت السینمایی, which is at this time run by a good filmmaker, Mr. Shamakhdari. I would say that it's 50-50. Many issues that filmmakers would like to make a film about are restricted. Many issues that probably would be criticized as censorship. But at the same time, very good filmmakers have expressed that they've pretty much done what they wanted to say.
How difficult or how easy is it for a filmmaker to make a movie in Iran? It has to pass through lots of stages.
Let me give you an example of when I was in charge.
Right.
This was like, 15 years ago. So it's more or less, give and take, it's the same thing. We had the film by Mr. Kiarostami, The Taste of Cherry. It came up, and there was a big controversy about sending it to Cannes Film Festival for the 50th anniversary, and it was eventually sent. And the controversy was that he had broken the law. He had to show his film at the Fajr Film Festival and then send it to Cannes. But despite that, it was sent to Cannes, and it won the biggest prize. So we had another film by Jafar Panahi, 1 month before Eid Nowruz, our New Year. He came up and he wanted to shoot it, and we gave him the opportunity to shoot it. I mean, even though it was a controversial, semi-controversial subject. But many times, I think most filmmakers who have later on become controversial have been able to make their films in Iran most of the time. Some have had their films prevented, like Mr. Hatami Kia, who's a very well-known Iranian film director who's made a lot of films about the Hezbollah in Iran, or about those who've been in the war in Iran. One of his films was restricted. After he finished it, it wasn't shown for a period of 4 years. But in the next administration, it was not only shown, it was given the best award. So you have this.
What is the criteria here?
Well, sometimes it's just taste. You know, one administration has a different taste.
You mean conservative or reformist or whatever?
Yes. One group restricts the man. The other group comes and says, oh no, this film has nothing that should have been censored. And so the film Rang Arghavan, The Color of Purple, was restricted first. And then, but then it was
there's
rewarded.
a big list of banned movies, Iranian-made movies like Santuri, like Marmalak, like other type of movies.
Okay, let's go by that one by one. Marmalak was a good film. It was banned because
which means chameleon.
Chameleon, yes, or lizard.
Yes, lizard.
And in Iranian idiom, Iranian colloquial speech, it's sort of derogatory towards the ulama. And so it's the word itself became very controversial, although the film was shown. It was shown in cinemas, it was talked about. I mean, the director was on different television shows, he had given 1,000 interviews, and where is the censorship? So it was shown everywhere. But then it sort of got out of hand, because part of the people started using that word to, you know, hurt
a certain kind of religious...
This color. So in other words, if the name of the film was changed to another name, let's say it was called, you know, it's any other name, it would have been never banned. And I told this to the producer and the director, that they made a good film. Actually, it was a good film. It was made by a religious person, and the producer is also somebody who believes in this system. But the name became controversial. But so that's another film that was shown. So you give me an example, and I can tell you exactly what happened.
Santuri, for example.
Yes. I saw Santuri in the festival, in fact, by Dariush Merjoui. Actually, I thought that was a well-made film, and it wasn't banned. It was shown in the festival, but when it came for its turn to be shown in the theater, it was limited. I personally think there's nothing wrong with the film. If I was the deputy head of cinema, I would say, sure, you know. So this, I mean, and I would defend it, and I would argue about it, because the reason they banned it is because the lead character is you know, he's a drug addict. He's an artist, a musician.
A musician, true, that become a drug addict.
So big deal.
It's a social truth sometimes.
So big deal. Yes. I mean, in my view, big deal. Show the film. It was a good film. It's got nice music, but of course, maybe Mr. Shamade is against it. Maybe the minister is against it. But if I would even bring it up in my own show
to debate the issue. Yes, perhaps.
If Merjoui came to my show, I would definitely talk about this film. And we would show some clips of the film, and we would argue about the film, and we would put it to challenge.
Here, according to critics, they say, quote, what is certain is that the marriage between art and ideology has proved to be as problematic as, in Iran in particular, as that between religion and politics.
No, I don't think it's that stern. A few days ago, I read an article by Hamid Dabashi from the University of Columbia. He's a professor at the University of Columbia in Near East Studies, and he had written an article about all the different Iranian directors who have fled Iran, and they're all banned. What a steaming pile of baloney. It's not true. The man is out there for the past 35 years. He doesn't know what's going on. I interviewed the guy in 2006 for my own documentary about the status of the United States. So I know him. But when I read that article, some people portray Iran as very negative. I mean, they get credit for it, I guess. And he was talking about how Amir Naderi had escaped Iran, how Makhmalbaf, the great artist, had gone, how Qobadi is not making a film here. You know, how Sohrab Shahid Saleh left. Sohrab Shahid Saleh left Iran 4 years before the revolution. He was anti the Shah, and he went to East Germany. at that time, and he never came back. And in fact, we tried to invite him to come back, but he got cancer and died the next year. So he even had misinformation. So these things end up in Washington Post. They end up in major media by Iranians who portray Iran as no.
There is a specific stereotype about Iran, about
So
the Iranians, the women.
They pander to that. There's a market for being negative about Iran. I mean, look, the separation of Nader from Simin. It was a good film. And it got an award from Fajr Film Festival. And it was taken to Hollywood. It got a big award there. We were all very proud of it. But there was so much controversy about it. So that's okay. That makes the market hot.
Speaking of controversy, let me go now to your most prominent production, which is The Messiah. It's your first feature-length dramatic production. And actually it won an award at Rome's Religion Today Film Festival for generating interfaith dialogue. Yet it was very controversial when it was broadcast in certain Middle Eastern countries, particularly in Lebanon.
Yes.
Well, what can you tell us about that?
Yes. I think the Christians, the very minute group of Christians who objected are very sorry today. Because, I mean, look who's...
Did they watch it? Did they know anything about it?
First of all, they accepted it and said yes to Al-Manar, show it. We've seen it, there's no objection. But you know, everybody was watching it. The first and the second night was a serious film. And many of the Christians were watching it because all its information was new. Historically, it was new, it was controversial. And because they saw that they were watching it, they stopped it. That's the whole thing. They saw, and they were threatened, I think. And there was nothing threatening about that film.
But they said that this movie is based on a particular Bible, which is...
the Gospel of Barnabas.
Yes.
The Gospel of Barnabas, mind you, right now is in Turkey. It's in the museum in Ankara. It was discovered, one of the copies was discovered in the year 2000 in Cyprus. Turkey has that gospel. It is the oldest gospel in world history. It's been carved in 14th. It's from the 5th century.
Why didn't they recognize it
Because they don't want to even bring it up. Turkey is too scared of the European Union and of the Vatican to bring it up. I actually made a comment somewhere in one of the talks that I had at a university that as a half serious, half joke, I think the Pope resigned it because of that. Because if you go to the internet, you see that the Pope had asked to see a copy of the Gospel of Barnabas many times, which is in Turkey. I'm sure he's read it.
Injil Barnabas.
Yes, Injil Barnabas. At the time when we had this controversy in Lebanon, this was not put up. This came up later. Today, as we're speaking, the Gospel of Barnabas, the oldest copy of the Bible, does exist, but nobody has the courage to bring it up out of the museum. And Turkey does not have the courage because it wants to join the European Union.
Sure.
And this is civilization breaking, I believe. Actually, it's the truth. I mean, even Christians today, I mean, look at Time magazine. A few years ago, they had a cover page. Who is Jesus? Another time they had another cover page. Did Jesus really exist? I mean, these questions. And so here's the oldest Bible from the 5th century, so that you have to respect that. Why don't you bring it out and check it out, see what it says? Because it has, then the history becomes close to the history of Islam, and it talks about the Prophet.
It's a continuation at the end of the day.
So today, you know, I was very upset that it was not shown, that my series was not shown in Lebanon, although I was very happy that at least 2 parts were shown. And as a result of that banning, it was distributed in DVD. At that time, it got a lot of coverage, a lot of controversy surrounding. I was very sorry that the Lebanese people did not get a chance to see it. Other Arab countries saw it.
Didn't any side, any church, for example, Christian authority, contact you to see the whole thing before it was broadcast on Al-Manar TV?
Yes. In fact, the Christian society in Lebanon had seen the whole thing. They had they had given Al-Manar the green light. What they didn't expect was people to sit down and seriously watch it. That's what caused the controversy within their inner circle. They said, stop it.
Right. Dr. Nader Talib Zada, we're going to stop now for a short break, and then when we come back we will discuss more the controversy around the Messiah. A short break and we'll be back. Stay tuned. المخرج الإيراني نادر طالب زاده كيف يلخص تجربته أثناء تصوير فيلم المسيح عليه السلام، وكيف استطاع كتابة خاتمة هذا الفيلم وبمساعدة من، وكيف يصف نشاطه الإعلامي ومؤتمر الهوليووديزم الذي ينظمه سنويا.
In the Gospel of Barnabas, it's Judas that betrays Jesus and his face turns like the face of Jesus and he's hung on the crucifix, which is exactly what the Quran says, except the Quran doesn't name who it was that became like Jesus. But in the Gospel of Barnabas, it says it was Judas. I finished the film and I sent a copy of it to Mr. Sayyid, and he was
Hezbollah Secretary General.
Yes. And I had interviewed him before. The very beginning of the project, I had the great honor to be at his presence, and he gave me very good recommendations about other subjects that I could make a film about. I realized he's very media savvy. Very impressed by him. This is like 20 years ago, the first time I met him. And since then I talked about the project of Barnabas to him. And so he helped me, he read this scenario at other times, and he said, when you finish, send it to me. Another person who was very much on this project was Emad Mournier. At one point, Emad Mournier was told by Said to come to Iran and see the film in 35 in the theater and then give a report to Mr. Said Hassan. At any rate, this is like 2-3 weeks before he was martyred. Emad, who was such a great man.
Assassinated by the Israelis in Damascus.
Yes. The Secretary General saw the film and said, he wrote me a short letter, said it was a good film, but why don't you give it also a Christian ending? To make the Christians also happy with the Christian ending. And so you would have an option of Christian or Muslim ending. First I thought that was impossible, because we'd finished filming. But then we went back and we found a way to do it. And so we chose at the end of the film to give it 2 endings. First we gave it a Christian ending according to the 4 Gospels, where Jesus is crucified. And then we gave it the other ending, which is according to the Quran and the Gospel of Barnabas. So that became nice. When we sent it to Rome, they liked that they had 2 endings. And I showed it at other showings in the West. They found that interesting, and it was not my suggestion, it was his.
That's good. Yeah. Now, you also, part of your job as a commentator, and you host a TV show, a very popular TV show on one of the Iranian TV networks. It's called Draz, or The Secret.
Right.
What type of show is this, and how important is it?
Yeah, the Draz became a unique show because I dealt with everything. I dealt with cinema, I dealt with the economics in the country, I dealt with usury in our banks, riba. I dealt with confiscation of land illegally by some organs that had to be dealt with by the law. I dealt with many issues that others would not bring it up.
It's a political, intellectual.
Yes, and the television let the reins free on me, so I did what I want. I brought a lot of people who had never been on television and who were the best artists and intellectuals, never been seen. And many later had their own shows or have been invited to other shows ever since. I mean, they weren't seen. A lot of them were close friends, others. So that was an idea to open the media a little more in Iran. The whole idea was our media is a little bit too close. It started in a Ramadan 4 years ago, and it became the most popular show after that, and it's continuing.
Why do you think it is very popular?
Well, it's a very relaxed show. I go into some red lines, and they do let me, because I know how to contain it, how to curb it. If I had my way, I would have brought in some ex-Iranian presidents or some people who were marginalized to my show. The reason that I think perhaps it became successful is because I dealt with subjects no one had dealt with before. I mean,
the red lines.
yes, the red lines. Many people, for example, have never talked about usury in our banks. But we have an excuse for it, but I don't think that excuse is strong enough. And after we had 2-3 programs on the high interest rate of banks here, then many other programs start talking about it.
Maybe you had this characteristic of filmmaking that
Yes, maybe.
also added to the popularity of the show. Now, you also, sir, you are one of the prime organizers of the Hollywoodism conference.
Yes.
What is this conference?
This is also another opportunity I was looking forward to having put up. I wanted to have a lot of American intellectuals who are critics of the system, of this monster empire that has developed right now. I knew there are a lot of Americans who are speaking against the system within America without a mainstream media supporting them. A lot of people, and Al-Mayadeen, you interview, people in Press TV, Russia Today, but they never appeared on Iranian television or in conferences. So in Hollywoodism, we invited a lot of media people who are strong American critics, people with books, with radio shows. And the purpose, the excuse was Hollywood. Hollywood has been very successful in demonizing Iran and demonizing the Islamic world. So that was the main focus, and we were working on that. And also we started inviting a lot of Americans who made controversial films in America, but they could never show it. Like we invited one American filmmaker who made a film about 9/11, a dramatic film, but could never show it, could never distribute it. We invited him over, and so we showed his film, we talked about it, and other writers and critics that will be marginalized in America.
Yes, sir. On 9/11, actually, you said in one of your interviews, quote, that 9/11 footage appeared in movies from the 80s and 90s, and the aliens in the world of worlds are Muslims.
Yes.
Actually. And to add to this, for example, if somebody, those who watch the series 24, you come to see that they are trying through such kind of series to indoctrinate a certain kind of image about, for example, Muslims. Like you see the terror coming out of the mosque.
Yes. Let me give you a good example and I hope you find the film to show it in the interview that you're having with me. A film came out in 1984 called Nostradamus, the man who saw the future.
The future, yes, Nostradamus.
It was made in Hollywood, and it was narrated by Orson Welles. In that film, you will see a character similar to Osama bin Laden. In that film, you will see the skyscrapers in New York being hit by missiles from the Muslim world. Very clear. In that film, you'll see Imam Khomeini being predicted by Nostradamus. In that film, you will see an image, a pseudo-image of Imam Mahdi. In that film, this is 1984. So I think Hollywood, there's an agenda behind Hollywood, these sort of films. They're very serious thinking people. I call them the elders of the Zion, from the Temple of Solomon, working behind Hollywood to give certain images. In the 90s and in the year 2000, well, before 2000, you started having films about aliens attacking Earth.
The War of Worlds, yes, as I said.
The War of the Worlds is by Spielberg. The aliens attacking, they come from beneath. They come from beneath the Earth, and they're called terrorists. They're called actually terrorists by Tom Cruise's children in the film. Another film by another Jewish Austrian filmmaker, Roland Emmerich, who made 2012. He made Independence Day. Right. Again, there you have these aliens attacking Earth
from the sky.
Yes, from the sky. So the element of Islam, which has provoked no peace on Earth, the element of Islam that has terrorized the West, comes up in films like Independence Day, later by War of the Worlds, and this theme comes up in 2012. This theme comes up again and again and again.
This is against Islam, but also against, for example, the Iranian
Yes, of course.
Republic. You have Argo, the most recent.
Argo, I'll give you a better example than Argo. Unthinkable.
Unthinkable. Not without my daughter.
Not without,
Yes.
in Unthinkable with Samuel Jackson. Samuel Jackson is a torturer. And he tortures an Iranian agent who was taking $20 million from Tehran
To bomb, to detonate it.
to put 3 nuclear bombs in 3 U.S. cities. I mean, the film wasn't even shown in theaters. It was shown only on television because it was a good way to proliferate the idea.
Yes, I'm afraid time has run up. It was really so much interesting to talk to you about all these issues. Iranian filmmaker and commentator Dr. Nader Talib Zada, many thanks indeed for this opportunity from your home here in Iran.
Yes.
إذا لقاء جديد في الأسبوع المقبل مع ضيف جديد وقضية جديدة ودائما من الداخل. للمزيد من التواصل بريدنا theinside@almayadeen.net. إذا theinside@almayadeen.net. من كل فريق عمل من الداخل من كل الميادين، إلى اللقاء.